Welcome to the show. So glad you are here. Why don't you go ahead and text a friend and tell them this could be one of the best hours of their day, tuning in to Unbossed. And in the co-host seat today is none other than Jackson White. Axon Jackson, he's a Rebel HQ contributor. Jackson, I always want to say co-chair. I'm in political mode all the daggone time.
You busy. You doing your thing. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you get it mixed up, but that's a good problem to have.
Oh my God, co-host, co-chair is pretty much the same concept,
Pretty much. It makes me feel special, so I won't stop you from saying it,
You are special indeed, and we have a special show for our viewers today. We're gonna talk about an update on the Buffalo massacre shooter. Senator Sanders is going hard in the paint, working alongside Senator Elizabeth Warren to save Social Security. We'll also highlight a new bill that he is pushing about raising teacher pay. And many of you who followed us along the campaign trail, you know that technically what he's talking about is not new. He's been pushing for this for a long time. And later in the show, we'll break down some of the Republicans' thoughts on what is happening in East Palestine, Ohio. It is definitely a WTH, neo-fascist moment. But first, to Buffalo. Take a look.
We love our kids. We never go in no neighborhoods and take people out. Don't do it.
Yeah, don't condone violence, but you can understand why emotions were running high. That was the loved one of a victim of the Buffalo mass shooting in May, lunging toward convicted killer Peyton Grindron in court earlier today. And this headline right here, gunman sentenced to life in prison for Buffalo massacre of Black victims. The gunman who killed 10 Black people in a shooting rampage at a Buffalo supermarket in May was sentenced Wednesday to life in prison without the possibility of parole at an emotional hearing during which he faced recriminations and anger from the victims' families. Peyton Grindon, 19, who is white, planned the attack for months, targeting the Tops-friendly markets in a predominantly Black neighborhood of Buffalo, according to his online writings, which cited white supremacist conspiracy theories and anti-Semitic rants. Further, Erie County Court Judge Susan Egan delivered the sentence, denouncing the history of white supremacy in the United States. Quote, "Let ours be the generation to put a stop to it," end quote. She said, "We can do better, we must do better." So that is the judge who handed down the sentence saying we got to do better and we must do better. And then some thoughts from Janae Nelson, and she is the president and executive director counsel of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. And she sums up this tragedy this way: so much pain and tragedy. If only we put as much energy into preventing as opposed to punishing violence, especially white supremacist hate, we would all be better off. Prayers up to the community of Buffalo as they relive this horror and wishing them healing as they continue to mourn. And Jackson, I mean, that's exactly how I feel. I mean, Madam President put that so succinctly and so powerfully. But as we were watching the footage of the relative trying to lunge at the murderer, I mean, certainly we can understand why emotions were running high in that courtroom today, even though justice was definitely served today.
Well, I think that one of the most unfortunate things about human nature is how we just don't learn from the past. How easy it is to not learn from the past. And I say that for a variety of reasons. One, the failure for the federal government to pass any type of meaningful gun legislation is really the crux of this issue in terms of preventing people from being able to get their hands on weapons and doing things like this. even so far as letting people with mental health issues still get their hands on weapons. And then obviously using the excuse that any type of legislation that's passed, well, we already crossed that bridge. So it makes it harder to pass anything else. But also, people who commit these types of acts in Tops, or whether they're, in a Walmart or anything similar, it's like when you read their manifestos, they always think that they're going to make some type of lasting mark on society or some type of lasting influence, but that never happens. So it's just, that's really another frustrating thing, because it's like your evil crusade that you're going against. You have all the evidence in the world that people who have done this before you, their names don't last. Their names don't reach some type of glorification status in society. And now you're going to be in prison for the rest of your life. So it just, every way you look at it, it's just a horrible waste of life where nothing good comes out on the other side.
Yeah, it really is. And then for the relatives of the victims, they will never get that time back with their loved ones, even if they are happy with the verdict. I know they would much rather have their loved ones here with them. Man, so President Nelson summed it up. We are going on to Senator Sanders and Senator Warren. They're pushing a bill trying to increase Social Security. And then Senator Sanders is pushing his teacher pay. He's been doing that for a long time. Take a look at this.
Republicans are ready to wreck the US economy unless President Biden agrees to devastating cuts to Social Security and Medicare.
If we really want to talk about the debt and spending, it's the entitlements program.
For what reason the age of retirement?
That's interesting that you asked that question. People come up to me, they actually don't work hard.
Democrats were elected on the promise that they would defend Social Security against Republican attacks. Now is the moment of truth.
Liar, liar, pants on fire. I mean, that elected official walking through there talking about people talking to him saying they want to work longer. Maybe if they got the choice, but not if it's mandatory because they can't afford to live. I mean, what is wrong with this dude? And it's always curious to me how people in suits always want to talk about how folks want to live longer. Imagine working with your body for 30, 40 years. And you think at the age of 65 or 70 years old, you still want to be out there working? Hex to the no, you don't want to. And then when we talk about the racialized nature of this, because it's racialized. Black men die at younger ages. So hell, they may even die before they even get an opportunity to get Social Security. What is wrong with these people, these Republicans? It is something wrong with them, America. And I know that there are elderly or seasoned folks all over this country who do not want Social Security to be touched. As we know historically, it is one of the best policy initiatives to be introduced into this country in the 20th century, and it is still changing lives right to this day. And we are so glad that Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren do indeed recognize that this is a moment of truth. Baby, it's time to call the roll. Whose side are you on? Let's call the roll. Let's not play games with it. Let the American people determine who really is on their side and who is not on their side. Don't play games. Go ahead and pass it out of committee and put it on the floor and call the roll, so that folks can take to the streets over this. So check out this headline. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and other Democrats are once again trying to give retirees an additional $2,400 in their Social Security check. And while we on that point, I'm glad they want to give that $2,400. Even that's not enough, given the fact of the high price of gas and food and everything else that is surrounding living a good life. Why should our retirees have to grovel in their golden years? Because that's what's happening. If you ain't a member of Congress, you got to grovel. Or if you're not in the corporatist wing, you got to grovel. Something wrong with these folks. Further, Senator Bernie Sanders wants retirees to have more money, and I do too. And he wants it to come from higher taxes on the wealthy. So that's how we're gonna pay for it before your play cousins come asking, how we gonna pay for it? We're gonna put a higher tax on the ultra wealthy in this country. Sanders alongside Senator Elizabeth Warren and Reps Jan Schakowsky and Val Hoyle introduced legislation to beef up Social Security benefits and keep the program solvent through 2096. So again, when you play cousins ask you how we're gonna pay for it, tell them to repeat after you. We are going to pay for it because we're gonna raise taxes on the ultra wealthy in the United States of America instead of cutting their taxes and starving government. Just in case your play cousin and them don't understand how government works, I want you to be able to teach them this lesson. And it is, government is a service industry. Have them repeat after you. Government is a service industry. Now, the services have to be paid for, and the way that we pay for those services is through our collective tax dollars. That's our social contract with one another. You may ask for some examples. I'm glad that you asked for those examples. Education is one example. We as a country decided that K-12 education should be paid for within a social contract with our tax dollars. Now, most of those tax dollars come from local and state sources, but we also put money in the pot on the federal level as well. Say it with me. So every time we cut taxes on the ultra wealthy in this country, we create the conundrum of government not having enough resources to meet its obligation towards our social contract. Okay? So explain it to your cousins and them when they ask you. And we can give them many more examples, but I just want to start with that one very simple example. Now, as for the proposal, here is how it breaks down. I had to take a little sidebar and work out this little lesson for you to tell your cousin and them when they start asking how we gonna pay for it. All right, so we got it. Tell them, and you can use other examples as well. But here, currently only up to $162,000 is taxed for Social Security, while any income above that limit is free from the tax. Under Sanders and Warren's proposal, the cap would be lifted and income over $250,000 would be subject to the payroll tax. Senator Sanders described the urgency of expanding these checks, and this is how he explained it. At a time when nearly half of older Americans have no retirement savings and almost 50% of our nation's seniors are trying to survive on an income of less than $25,000 a year. That is a shame for God. That's what my grandmother would say, Jackson, a shame for God. Not before God, a shame for God. That is a shame. Our job is not to cut Social Security. Our job is to expand Social Security so that every senior in America can retire with the dignity, underline, bold, underscore, that they deserve. Underline, bold, underscore, and every person with a disability, bold, underline, underscore, exclamation point, can live with the security they need. Now, a reminder of how vital it is to expand Social Security. Let's look at these stats right here. 25.2% of all American adults receive some form of Social Security. The average monthly disability benefit is only $1,200. $1,280, about $1,200. If Social Security was cut by 20%, the average monthly benefit would decrease to only $301 each month, or $3,612 per year. Jackson, your thoughts on what Senators Sanders and Warren et al., because there's some others, are doing?
Well, I think that this really sheds light on the big issue facing this country, other than corruption, but really the culture of keeping corporate America held up high no matter what. Because competition in reality has been eliminated from the marketplace in a lot of ways through corporate tax cuts, through estate tax cuts, through deregulation where deregulation doesn't need to be had. In that way, it makes it for people or industries or entities that have the majority of the resources and capital. It allows them to not really need to compete with everybody else, because the bigger issue is if there was a real clean desire, hard desire among the powerful among those who have corrupted the government to really fix these issues, then there's even more ways to do it than just raising taxes on corporations or the ultra wealthy. We can continue the legalization of cannabis along with other decriminalization of other substances. Then we got the spreading of like legal sports betting. That's making money hand over fist, taxing that differently. I mean, pretty much anywhere you look, there's some type of way that we can draw out tax dollars from something that people are doing. The problem is that there's no desire, for the people at the helm of government to actually fix these issues. So anybody who really argues against fixing Social Security or not privatizing it or like making education and healthcare more affordable, you're really not saying anything other than I don't think people deserve this. It really boils down to it.
That they're not worthy. I mean, that's basically what they're saying, because where there is a will, there is absolutely a way. Yep. And speaking of a way, in addition to Senator Sanders pushing to increase the paychecks of our seasoned folks in this country, he also wants to work on increasing teachers' pay, something he has been doing all along. Watch this.
We must understand that it is absurd that there are school districts throughout this country where there are major shortages of teachers. And if we understand the enormously important work that teachers do, that means, in my view, among many other things, that we should be paying public school teachers a minimum of at least $60,000 a year. And I am proud to tell you that I will soon be introducing legislation to do just that.
And I hope that you were paying attention to the word minimum that he used. Like, that is the floor, it's not the ceiling. And I've heard the senator give this particular speech ad nauseum on the campaign trail, both in 2016 and also in 2020. And teachers are underpaid. It is not a myth. Let's take a look at this graphic. The decline in average teacher pay. Teachers make on average $2,150 less than they did 10 years ago, adjusted for inflation. So what kind of country, what kind of nation are we that we would allow teacher pay to go down? The way that teachers have to be credentialed in this country, they're up there with all the other professions of lawyers and doctors. And I would argue that they are, in some cases, more important, because who helps, keyword is on helps, to mold the minds of the lawyers and the doctors is teachers. So why wouldn't we give teachers the respect that they deserve through their paycheck? Hello, somebody? I want the teachers watching today to go ahead and send us a message. Let us know how you feel about that. If anybody's ever had a teacher who made a difference in your life, shout them out. They mold the minds of the future generation. So why in the heaven would we pay them less than we pay a doctor or a lawyer? Makes no sense to me. They right up there with them folks. Everybody has a role to play. And teachers, most teachers, not all, but most teachers play that role extraordinarily well. So during the campaign, the senator gave this speech over and over again as we traveled all over this country, galvanizing teachers. And one time in particular, I remember when we were in the great state of South Carolina, and teachers decided that they wanted to have a day of walkout, and our campaign was right there supporting their efforts to draw attention to the fact that they are not being paid enough. They shared their concerns with me and others on that campaign. So led by Red for Ed, over 10,000 teachers in South Carolina and their supporters marched on the State House. And I remember that day like it was yesterday. I was trying to go through my stuff, y'all, to find some pictures and some videos so I could show you that. But it was really an awesome day to see so many people come together for teachers. And I also want to draw your attention to the Thurgood Marshall Plan for Public Education. That was the name of our plan when we were on the campaign trail in 2020. And part of that plan to combat racial discrimination and school segregation in the unaccountable profit motive of charter schools, provide equitable funding for public schools, give teachers a starting salary of $60,000, expand collective bargaining rights and teacher tenure, and fund out-of-pocket expenses for classroom materials. Many of us have heard the story of how teachers use their own funds to provide supplies for students, especially those teachers who are teaching in predominantly rural and also urban areas. I have many of my friends are teachers, and they tell those stories just up front of how much they love those children they give to them. Another part of the Thurgood Marshall education plan, and again, this was our education plan during the election cycle of 2020. I wanna shout out Dr. Heather Galtney for helping to birth this baby right here. Ensure that the federal government provides at least 50% of the funding for special education and gives special education teachers the support that they need. That was so important because states provide the overwhelming majority of that money, and it has not been increased in a very long time in this country. Provide year-round free universal meals and incentivizes local sourced food. Hello, somebody? Year-round, because these babies got to eat year-round. And just because school is not in the same conditions that they find themselves in or their families does not change just because they are not in school. So why wouldn't we feed those babies year-round and help these families and then incentivize locally sourced food? That is a beautiful thing too. Urban gardening is a beautiful thing. Hello? And then lastly, Thurgood Marshall Plan Part 3, make schools safe and inclusive by protecting the rights of all students from harassment, discrimination, and violence, and enacting comprehensive gun violence prevention laws. Rebuild, modernize, and green our nation's school. I'm gonna tell you something, Jackson. I was proud of a lot of things that we accomplished on the Sanders campaign. Now, we worked very hard in South Carolina. We ain't gonna drudge up what happened, because we're talking about the education plan, but let's just say, some of the leadership in South Carolina didn't take kindly to some of the things that we were trying to convince people that they deserved and they could have. But that Thurgood Marshall Plan for education was certainly one of the best policies among all of the policies that we were pushing on the Sanders campaign. So your thoughts, Jackson, on both Senators Sanders and Warren wanting to increase Social Security, and so we covered that. But now Senator Sanders, and I'm sure a lot of co-sponsors are gonna sign on to this, taking it all the way into the paint and wanting to increase the funding for schools.
Well,
teachers pay, I should say.
At the end of the day, teachers, or rather the field of teaching, struggling to attract new workers is a topic that people have been talking about for quite some time. Liberals, conservatives, everybody talks about this. And you can't get around the fact that good teachers are extremely important to the health and the future of any nation. And so simply paying people more enough to get by, especially if they're like in a 2-person income, but even at that 60,000, you probably likely can get by living single if you live pretty frugally. So that by itself would attract more people to the job, because typically teachers are very passionate about what they do, because it's not a profession that generates a ton of capital. And generally, the people who make the most money generate capital in some type of way, whether they got a whole lot of people watching them, so they make money through ad dollars, or they sell a whole lot of X, Y, and Z. And that never will change, because money is money. But at the end of the day, you can't really complain about having a teacher shortage, but also not be in favor of paying teachers more because it's socialist and we can't go down that road, because, we need teachers. And how else does that impact the future of our workforce? Even if people don't go to college, if they're going to be technicians of some kind, electricians of some kind, or work in some type of labor, like if there's only incentive on generating capital, just because you're making a lot of money don't mean what you're doing is important. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just detrimental to society all the way around to pretend like people aren't dealing with. Actually, earlier today, I was covering a story. I think the average monthly payment on cars is $777 right now. So when you're dealing with stuff like that, people are naturally going to be like, man, I really want to be a teacher, but I can't afford to live off of it. And that is only going to be detrimental to the future of our country.
Yeah, which means it's detrimental to us all, because we are all connected in that way. So big ups to Senators Sanders and Warren et al. In pushing for more money for Social Security, and big ups to Senator Sanders for continuing to push his policy to increase the pay of teachers all over this country. We will be right back, family, right after this.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richard. We got a lot happening today. But what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? It was the white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy, Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it though.
Climate is changing fundamentally, extremely, and non-linearly. It's becoming worse now. It's not when the levees burst that is the problem. It's in the anticipation of that.
So I hope every human being is safe. And by human beings, I do not include multinational corporations, especially the ones that started climate change in the first place.
What we're currently doing right now in cutting emissions is clearly not enough. There will be ramifications to what Trump is doing. I don't want people to suffer, but I feel like there's gonna be a lot of suffering because we have an imbecile as our leader.
Welcome back to the show. Let me tell you what we got popping on the TYT network. The watch list, you know, it has a new time, new space. It's right after this show. You don't want to miss it with J.R. Jackson. New time, same space and same place. TYT.com/live right here. Just keep it rolling. You watching Unbossed, just stay right there and let the watch list roll right on in. And then the progress report, the big corporate newsletters all want you to believe that they got the inside story. The progress report brings you something better, insight. And no, we don't barrage you with every obsessive development from Trump world. Now that is so important right there. Just what truly matters. And no, we don't light the world on fire over every fringe outrage. Just what matters. So sign up at tyt.com/newsletter or scan the Q code that you are seeing right now. Progressive news and inspiration every weekday morning, baby. You don't want to miss it. It is such a great newsletter. And the Colorado ranchers protest. Remember, we did that story just yesterday. So justice for Courtney Mallory, a rancher in Colorado who owns Freedom Acres Ranch in El Paso County in Colorado. He was harassed and arrested because he was farming while black. A protest has been planned to take place at the Denver Capitol building on February 17th. From 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. So if you are in and around, please join them in their efforts. And if you can't physically get there, show them some love on social media. Now on to my favorite part of the show, your comments. We're starting off with our TYT member, Speed Racer. Hey, Speed Racer. My father had to take early retirement at age 62 in 1975 because of the wear and tear on his body over 39 years of working on the railroad. Oh, Speed Racer, thanks for sharing that story. And that is so important. So often people forget that everybody is not wearing a suit in an air-conditioned building, that people are actually using their bodies. And many thanks to your dad for working on the railroads. Thank you, Speed Racer. And then Mountain Dragon, the insanity of how this country is ruled is so apparent with these types of situations. These Republicans would rather the heart of the country, teachers, factory workers, farmers, etc., die before they can afford to retire. Mountain Dragon, that's a word. You and Speed Racer, you hitting on it. That's it. They would rather that they die. And on Twitch, but we're gonna keep on fighting, right, so that we can help change people's material conditions. You both are stating the facts, but we can do something about it, because just because that is the reality today does not mean it has to be the reality tomorrow. We're gonna keep fighting these powers. And on Twitch, Adam, Bernie and Warren, we need them. Necessity to reach those better days. All right now, Adam. Read. Thank you. Oh, hell, my team was telling me to read this. I thought read was somebody's handle. Let me start this all over again, family. Thank you to Lucky Winter Wolf for subscribing for 26 months. Thank you, Winter Wolf, for subscribing. We appreciate you, baby, so very much. And on YouTube and Super Chat, Gentle Storm. I like that. Gentle Storm. Lord, Nina is ready to educate us. You better say that, Gentle Storm. I'm coming in like a gentle storm. And Hearn, Nina is taking us to church. Thank you all so very much. We appreciate you here on Unbossed. We couldn't do what we do without you, boo, and we appreciate you on the TYT network. Republicans, Charlie Kirk recently spoke out on the East Palestine incident. We have a couple of clips we're gonna show you in this segment. Take a look.
Single member of the Biden regime would dare to go to this portion of Ohio and breathe in the air because they know it's dangerous. They know that it is actively poisoning the citizens of Eastern Ohio. So why is it that they kind of shrug their shoulders and they say, yeah, okay, whatever.
Now, I know you're probably saying, TNT, what's wrong with what he just said? You know what, had he just stopped there, had the dude just paused, pumped his brakes right there, it would have been all right, but he didn't pump his brakes. Take a look at this.
Simple, it's because the war on white people continues. Why would you care for the white working class voters in Eastern Ohio? You haven't cared about them in other reasons or other portions, and I will prove it to you. If this train derailment happened in downtown Atlanta, in the densely populated black neighborhoods, this would be the #1 news story. It would be Flint water crisis 2.0. There would be clamoring and activism and talks for reparations.
Jackson?
That's what his last comment shows too, that he doesn't really care about the issue. You know what I'm saying? Because he totally negated from what was being discussed, the issue of breathing in toxic chemicals, on top of the fact that what did the GOP just do to the Environmental Protection Agency? Even though they started it, the GOP platform typically isn't very concerned about environmental issues. They make fun of people for caring about these things. So, again, but this actually was just like, now, Charlie Kirk is far more ridiculous than someone like Nikki Haley. But this morning, I was watching Nikki Haley's presidential announcement campaign commercial, and I was this close to being prepared to give her a little bit of credit, but it only took 30 seconds for it all to come crashing down, for all of that to just go flying out the window, because she said it only took 30 seconds for her to start saying, like, America's this perfect place, and anyone who criticizes it is tripping. And, look at China, look at those communist places. They're the ones who have genocide. That's really the big problem. Now, I want to bring people together. There's no problems here. It's like, oh, okay. But yeah, he almost had it, but then he just lost it completely.
Oh my God, Jackson, I can't believe you're gonna give her any credit.
I know, I was tripping, right? I was tripping.
This is the same woman, let us not forget, that said that Senator Warnock needs to go on back to Africa.
Oh, See, I guess I did that slipped my mind.
Yeah,
and I guess
that chick.
Life slaps some sense into you every once in a while. So that's what happened to me this morning, because I was almost ready to give her some credit. And then again, it was like 31 seconds in.
31 seconds. You
and
gave
then life was like,
you gave her 31 seconds more than I would have ever given this woman. She just like the rest of them. And don't forget now, she gave up her whole heritage. Her real name, her birth name ain't Nikki Haley. Okay, so if that
what is it? What's her real name? Because she's Indian, right?
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
And so that kind of self-hate, for your own culture. I mean, talk about acculturation. Woo, Jackson. Please.
Well, I did mention before I almost gave her credit. I said, well, her first mistake is being a woman running for president in the Republican Party. So that's it right there. But I think this goes to show how ridiculous Charlie Kirk is that we're talking about Nikki Haley right now.
Much so. I mean, this dude, everything he said was rooted in white supremacy and anti-blackness. The dude don't even understand reparations, their place in history for black people. He conflated a whole bunch of other stuff. The only thing he said right was about the administration should take their butt down there. I wish they would gas up the jet and gone down there and talk to them families there. But after that, he went all the way downhill. He is a fool. He is a grifter like no other. So he is using this awful situation that is happening to the people of East Palestine, Ohio, to try to create a wedge between those people who live in that community and everybody else, and he's doing it based on race. And here's what people on Twitter had to say about his hateful agenda. Let's take a look what Dean tweeted out. Dean said, "It truly appears that the white right," I can't believe we saying those two words together, the white right is on the verge of starting a race war because demographic change is coming. I sincerely don't say that to scare people, but to raise red flags about where the white right, because that's a tongue twister right there, headed by Trump, Tucker Carlson, and Charlie Kirk appear to be going. The GOP is ginning up a race war. I'm not kidding. Charlie Kirk wildly claims response to Ohio train derailment is act of war on white people. What it is an act of indifference to working class people. Period. Exclamation point. Something wrong with this dude. I mean, it really is. And then former Congressman Joe Walsh, he was a congressman in the great state of Illinois. He laid this down. This very young grifter's audience is almost all middle-aged and older white people. It's Kirk's job every day is to anger and frighten this white audience of his. That's how he stays popular in my former world of right media. Charlie is not alone. Not by a long shot. So unfortunate that this dude is using his platform in this way. Jackson, he's getting paid so much money.
Oh yeah, and that's why he does it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's why he does it. Why should he stop? I mean, unless he's physically stopped from doing it, then he's not going to do it. But no, it's just hilarious because again, you pointed that out perfectly. Like it was almost just fine because administration does. They should do something about this.
Yes.
But then you just totally destroyed it by making it a racial issue and talking about reparations. And it's like, not really, bro, because this is just one town of hundreds across the United States that are facing this same type of issue, which I haven't heard the GOP address at all. Again, they'll make fun of you. They'll make fun of you for addressing these types of things.
They never will because they really don't care. They just using this situation to stoke fear. So I would love to know where these Republicans find the audacity. Take a look at this.
Democrats passed a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill and only $5 billion went towards rail safety. This is a failure. It would have never happened under a Republican-controlled infrastructure bill, and we need to hold Democrats accountable for this, especially Pete Buttigieg.
This chick right here. So that was Marjorie Greene pointing out the lack of funding from the infrastructure bill that went towards rail safety. Remember, she voted against it. Okay? Hello? We got the receipts, along with 200 other Republicans. Let's go ahead and put up this graph so folks can see this. The vote on the infrastructure bill, 228 yes, 206 no. Do y'all see that? 13 Republicans voted yes, 200 of them mofos voted no, and she was one of the 200. So I'm gonna tell you something. The woman fixed her mouth. To quote my maternal grandmama, she fixed her mouth to talk this smack. Because you know why? East Palestine and America, she don't expect you to go check out her voting record. She didn't give a damn. Did you hear me? She didn't give a damn, and she don't give a damn right now. See, these people are just using the suffering of the people in East Palestine as a political ploy, punching bag, a political ploy. That's all they doing. They don't care about those people at all. So let's understand that. And let us also remind you that when former President Donald J. Trump, since this chick wants to say this wouldn't happen under Republican administration, when former President Donald Trump took office in 2017, Republicans also controlled Congress. Hello, let's bold it, underline it, exclamation point, message in a bottle on the train that's not carrying chemicals. Despite Trump's pledge to dedicate himself to passing infrastructure legislation. So don't forget, the chick said this would have never happened under a Republican president. Well, guess what? It didn't happen under because he didn't even touch it. No bill came to fruition over the next 2 years. So she got that kind of sort of halfway right. No, it wouldn't have happened under a GOP presidency because he didn't do it. As a result, like he didn't give a nickel or a dime. As a result, the infrastructure week Trump promised at the beginning of his term became a running joke. I just can't with these people. And then let us remind you, Republicans are for deregulation. Listen here with this response from former Ohio Democratic Party chairman and author extraordinaire, David Pepper.
Important to remember this as we hear Republicans and right-wingers squawk about this issue, because the truth is this is the inevitable outcome of what's happening when states like Ohio and the Republican Congress basically are all about simply this big dollar corporate agenda. What's that agenda? One, it's to deregulate everything, including the rails. It's trickle-down economics, which means towns like East Palestine are literally having their funds raided by the state of Ohio to give out tax cuts at the top in Ohio. It's the raiding of public assets like schools in Ohio, so those funds go into the hands of for-profit companies in Ohio that give big money to politicians. And it's the continual attack on workers. That's the big dollar corporate agenda that is being pushed all over the country, especially through State House, but also through Republicans in Washington. Well,
big dollar agenda. David Pepper teaching right there. Go ahead on and teach, teacher. This is it. This is what they're doing. Brother had whiteboard and all. Jackson, I love me a good whiteboard, especially when it's in the hands of somebody who can teach the lesson. He used that board, didn't he?
Yep. And you know, well, you had the chart up, but a variety of Republicans did the same thing with the infrastructure bill. Of course, they attacked it when it was going out, but then they took credit for maybe bridges being built in their state, and they, even though they voted against it. But the thing is that their base doesn't care, because they're not going to vote for a Democrat. So, you know, it's better than nothing, you know, because Democrats are just worse, you know, by default. But it's really just sad, because I wouldn't be surprised if this East Palestine story ends up just continue to get spread for months, especially into the election, just in terms of the, you know, white people's rights being stamped upon and white people in America being criminalized. So they're going to continue to run with this. But yeah, you put up that chart and literally all of them voted no on it. And MTG was not the only one taking credit.
No, was not. Yeah, if we could, team, put that chart up one more quick time of the vote, and the fact that President Donald J. Trump did not do an infrastructure bill at all. And when they had an opportunity, even though, yeah, we definitely need more money for infrastructure in this country. Thank you, team, for putting that up. What we do know is that the overwhelming majority of Republicans, 206 of them, voted no. Hello, somebody. Paging Marjorie Taylor Greene sweetness. Got the pure unadulterated gall, as my grandmother would say, more nerve than a brass a monkey. Yes. These folks. I do hope that working class people from all backgrounds, and I mean that, no matter how you identify, because this is about our identity being of the working class. Now, some people are at the top of that working class, some people at the middle, some people at the very bottom of that. But baby, if you ain't got a sugar daddy, a sugar mama, a sugar somebody, you work for a living, and we ought to be together against these corporatists in both parties. Hello, somebody on that. And speaking of hello, somebody, Representative George Santos is not alone. Let's sidestep George Santos just for a minute. There's a new sheriff in Liartown, and she goes by the name of Anna Paulina Luna. And she is a representative. Let's go ahead and put up that smug shot, shall we? Yeah, baby. Yep, Representative George Santos has some company. Let's take a deep dive into some of the claims that she has made. And thanks to people.com for gathering this work. Now, this is the chick's first claim. Luna made conflicting statements about her heritage, including that she's Jewish. Luna's father, George Meyer Hoffler, was Catholic, not Jewish, but Luna and her mother, Monica, say that he converted to Messianic Judaism. All right, that's coming from people.com. The next claim, Luna had a grandfather who fought with Nazis in WW2, that's World War II. While questioning Luna's Jewish ties, the Post reported that her grandfather fought in Nazi Germany under Hitler's rule. Good God Almighty. Claim number 3, rather. Luna embraced her Hispanic heritage for political purposes, including changing her last name and adopting a daggone accent when she took a job at controversial conservative nonprofit Turning Point USA. She says she dropped her last name and simply went by Anna Paulina to preserve her husband's safety and privacy. Woman, give me a break. Now look, women can rock with any name they want. Seriously, rock away. But the chick did all of this for political reasons, just like Nikki Haley. Okay, same thing. That was the woman's claim. Okay, that's what she did. Here's the next claim. There's no record of Luna's father being incarcerated. Luna has claimed that her father, George, was in and out of incarceration while she was growing up. Who in the hell, though, would want to claim something like that, though? Seriously. I mean, you know what? Let me keep on reading this. No criminal cases included on his death record showed that he was given a jail sentence. Now, I'm telling you something, Jack. See, people lie. You know, sometimes people lie for a purpose. I am not saying lying is right, but sometimes you gotta understand why some people would lie. Even though you might not appreciate it, you might be able to understand. But these damn lies these people tell them between her and Santos, I mean, you look up lie in the dictionary, baby, and they smug shots are plastered right there. Who in the hell do you know who would lie and say that they daddy or they mama or they play cousin was incarcerated when they were, I mean, who wants to claim that? Good God Almighty. Here's the next claim. Luna did not grow up poor and isolated by family like she claimed. Luna's mother refutes the Post reporting on their family dynamic, saying that she and Luna were in fact financially unstable with little help from extended family. So you got mama refuting what the daughter is saying. Now again, just like you don't want to claim that your daddy went to prison, why in the hell would you want to claim poverty?
It sounds like
some political angle for that, Jackson. I mean, this is dizzy. This is making me dizzy.
Right? Well, it's a political angle, but again, those types of lies are more so pathological. Like you clearly have issues. But she reminds me of like a kid from like a rich town who moves to like a more dangerous neighborhood, and they gotta like survive and fit in. So they just start acting like they know what's up with stuff, or when they don't really need to.
No.
But I mean, as far as we know, George Santos still has her beat by quite a bit. You know, so I guess she's still second and she's in competition with them. But yeah, I mean, these lies don't make sense.
Lies, and damn lies. They in competition. They ain't the only lies in Congress, but my God, they sure putting a whole nother spin on the word lie. Oh, take a look at this. Jackson and I, we're going to end this segment. We're going to end the show on some good news. Take a look at this.
Michael Jordan, his impact on the game, his impact on players today and players of the past is well documented.
Jordan means so much to myself and to just the game of basketball. All the millions and millions of people he has inspired.
That's very Jordan-esque.
He's always in the backyard hooping, trying to act like we was part of that team.
Compete every night. Give everything you got. That's something I saw him do for all his career.
One thing that I've learned from him, sometimes to succeed, you have to take risks.
Remember I was a kid, I used to watch the Bulls games.
Never thought I'd be in the NBA playing on the same court Mike played on.
MJ, baby. So that was some of Jordan's colleagues and current players talking about the great influence of MJ himself. And now Michael Jordan's impact is being felt off the court. Let's put up this headline team. Michael Jordan donates $10 million to Make-A-Wish for his 60th birthday. It is the largest donation ever received from an individual in the organization's 43-year history. Jordan's hope is that his decision to celebrate his birthday by donating to Make-A-Wish will inspire others to help fulfill the wishes of kids still waiting for their wishes to come true. And this donation continues a long-standing partnership between Jordan and the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Jordan, now the owner of the NBA's Charlotte Hornets, first supported Make-A-Wish in 1989. He has granted hundreds of wishes to children all over the world and remains one of the most requested celebrity wish granters. He was named Make-A-Wish Chief Wish Ambassador in 2008 for what the organization called the life-changing impacts he has had on wish kids, and their families. And here is what the GOAT had to say. For the past 34 years, it's been an honor to partner with Make-A-Wish and help bring a smile and happiness to so many kids. Witnessing their strength and resilience during such a tough time in their lives has truly been an inspiration. I can't think of a better birthday gift than seeing others join me in supporting Make-A-Wish so that every child can experience the magic of having their wish come true. Come on, MJ, come through, baby. And as we celebrate Black History Month, it's worth noting Michael's legacy post-retirement. As was noted on Michael Jordan Day on February the 3rd, 2023, celebrating Jordan during Black History Month gave the day extra gravitas, as he is the only Black majority franchise owner in the NBA. And the fact that the man largely considered to be the best to ever pick up a basketball was able to turn that into owning a franchise presents as quite the success story. Action Jackson, what say you?
Well, I mean, you can't really knock something like this whatsoever. And if you are blessed enough to not only have a lot of influence, but also have a ton of liquidity, liquid capital to your name, especially as you get older and you've gotten a lot of things, your personal accomplishments out of the way, this is the type of stuff that the world needs. And, hopefully, especially too, because, Michael Jordan is not necessarily someone who has like a huge reputation for things like this in general. So for him to do this is definitely not just a grand gesture, but obviously something that he really means. I think that this is great. And this is what the world needs a whole lot more of, people in positions like his to give what they have because they can.
Yeah, absolutely to that. I mean, absolutely true that. And one of my favorite Jordan quotes is this one. I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games 26 times. I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life. And this is why I succeed. Go ahead on. MJ, lay it down like it ain't been laid before. Oh, we salute you, Michael Jordan, and thank you for what you are doing for Make-A-Wish Foundation that does helps the dreams of so many children in a crisis moment in their lives come true. And thank you, Action Jackson, for being with us today. We so very much appreciate you, and it was so nice to close out the show finally on some good news. We worked really hard. That's Sachi's job on the team. Sachi's job is to try to find us some daggone blasted good news, baby.
It can be difficult sometimes, but it's always good. Got to remind yourself and everybody else that there's a lot more going on out here. So
yeah, it is, and we gotta try. I mean, it can be, you want to be informed, but you don't want to be inundated. But it's so hard in our industry, our line of work, Jackson, because unfortunately, there's a lot of bad things going on in the world. But there's a however. There's a yin to the yang. On the other side of that, there's good as well. And speaking of good, it was so great to have you here with me today. Cannot wait to have you back next week. And
next Wednesday.
That's it. Next Wednesday. Wednesday is Action Jackson Day. And to each and every one of you, thank you so much for joining us today. You know what I want you to do about this time. I want you so much to keep the faith, but I need you to swirl that faith up with some fight. Until next time.